No justice, no peace. No racist police. No justice, no peace. No racist police.
When we proceed from here, we must all know that we are stepping into a dangerous situation, right? But if you was the type to be scared, you wouldn't be standing here right now, right? If you were the type to be scared off by these white supremacists, you would have never went to Charlottesville, right? If you were the type to be scared off by the KKK, you would have stayed your ass on the couch and posted the social media about it. Right? Yeah. So we're gonna march forward and we're gonna be cautious. Take account of everyone.
Trump, no KKK, no racist USA. No Trump, no KKK, no racist USA.
No Trump. If there's a stick attached to your poster and remove it, you can't bring it past this point.
Guys, give us a little bit of room. Go any further, police have barricaded this entire area. You can actually see over there the other group, the new Confederate States of America. There is no way for these counter-protesters to get over there right now. It looks like things are quiet at this point. There have been no signs of violence. Things have been quiet so far, but of course that could change. We'll keep you updated as this event continues to progress. In Richmond, Mark Tanya, 8 News.
Can I ask a weird question? Is it possible that we can make these dialogues more where people actually exchange history from both perspectives? Because your history versus what I learned, I'm from North Carolina, so my history was, in 8th grade we learned North Carolina history. You take AP US later on. And my AP US teacher taught me about how history is actually perceived by the person and how they viewed it. And how for historians we try to look at all aspects of it.
Right.
And I think right now in a country that's being divided, the only way we can understand one another is these conversations.
Right.
So how do we get people that support what you support to sit down with people that look like me without the frustration, without the anger, without the hatred from both sides to actually illustrate this?
People have to be open-minded and willing to do that in the first place. Okay? When I go to these things, I'm looking to have conversations with people. I'm not looking for violence. And if I see that kind of thing, I would try and stop it. But to have conversations like we're having, people got to be willing to do it, number one. And it's not, it can't be like, no offense, Doc. It can't be people that have the PhDs and the psychiatrists and all of that. It has to be everyday people like you and me having conversations. That way I can express with you, out of genuine interest of knowledge, my thing, so you can give me yours. If people are willing to do that, this world will be a better place.
So how do I go back to people in my circle, in my area, in my interests and say, hey, we need to sit down with them in a safe environment? How would you?
But who's them?
I'm saying like people my age group, people who are out here protesting and saying negative things with the other side. The thing is, we're not communicating properly. You know, and that's the issue. Is like I want to be able to say, hey, let's wait, let's talk to them in these instances. Let's not be shouting at one another. Let's not be angry at one another. Let's actually let's spit history. How do you perceive this? Well, I think it's this, that, and the third.
But see, my whole thing is first I identify a person as a person saw from day one of birth. So I don't separate them, first of all. I don't single. And because of this, you know what I'm saying, somewhere along the line, you know, we're different ways, you know what I'm saying? So, but everybody has a common like, everybody has a common denominator.
Right.
Sports, theater, you know what I'm saying, literature, everyone has a common denominator. So my thing is, though, I just never divide people.
Well, no, I'm not saying.
No, I'm not saying you. I'm talking from my perspective.
Right.
To answer your question,
I'm open to everyone, and I can talk to anyone.
to answer your question, how do you go back to your people? You find one person that you can have this kind of a conversation with, somebody that you trust. Okay, number one. Okay, and then they go find another one, and then you go find another one, and then you start coming together. Just simply have, walk up to your best buddy. Hey, I went to this thing the other day, and I stood with a couple of guys. They were just having a conversation. One was black, one was white, and they actually had open dialogue between each other. How do we do that with other people and start bouncing ideas off of each other?
Having dialogues like that is important while you're out here today?
Sure.
What did you gain from the conversation?
Well, hopefully they gain more from me. My thing is leave these statues alone, leave the Confederacy alone. It behooves liberals and black people to mind their own business. They're the cause of all of this. You understand? They haven't done anything. These guys are long gone. It was an era that is long gone and over with. So, for me, they just need to mind their own business.
What were you guys, meeting in the mines there? Do you think it's basically here today? We've seen a lot of people talking to each other. Do you think more conversations like that need to happen?
No.
No?
No.
Okay.
You just need to leave them alone. Liberals and black people, just leave them alone, and everything will be fine. But they're never going to do that. You know that, don't you? You're a little young fact. They're going to take them down. They're going to take them down in Charlottesville. I grew up in Charlottesville. Because the liberals and blacks are going to have their way no matter what. And it incenses people and it stirs people up. And all it's going to do is divide the race. It's happening now. You understand that, right? So what good is talking about it? They're going to do it anyway, right? You don't need a dialogue.
Okay. Can I get your name?
Edward Perry.
Spell it for me.
EDWARD. Perry.
And so, do you live in Charlottesville now?
No. Been in Richmond a long time, over the north side.
Okay. And so you wanted to come out here today just to show your support for the statues?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Why was it important? Because this could have been an ugly day.
Yeah.
Why was it important for you to even be involved?
Because, like I told this young lady, I'm like Lee. I back Virginia. I wasn't born. I was born in Ohio, but I've been in Virginia so long. I mean, I grew up. So I just believe that the history that belongs to this state in particular and in the country, should stay. How you ever taking down the statue is never going to change what has happened, right? And like I told some other groups, the last people that should be out here protesting these statues and having taken down are black people. Ask me why. Black genocide. Chicago. They need to spend their time on this. Chicago. New York, D.C., Philadelphia, Richmond, all right, St. Louis, black on black genocide. They can serve their people better taking care of that than worrying about these statues. And please put it on, let everybody hear me say it. There are more things that you can be dealing with other than Confederate statues. A time and era that's long gone by.
Do you think the money and energy being spent on this, taking down these statues, could be better spent like in the school system?
Yeah, and I'm so glad Terry McCall changed his mind. He said he'll go with the school system. Rather than spend money on that, he said he'll like for the money to go to school. That's a good one. Yeah, thank you.
Go home! Go home!
That is big.
Amen, brother.
We have to have better things to do with your time. You're so proud. Why are you wearing the sunglasses?
Not that way, no.
Go home.
I didn't see you march on Selma with me in 2000.
We're all laughing at you.
I didn't see you there. Have you given the Innocence Project? Have you given the Innocence Project to get wrongfully incarcerated blacks out of prison and DNA exoneration? Have you? I have. Why don't you be part of the solution, not the problem?
I am.
Yeah.
Why did you come here to yell at us?
Yeah, why are you here?
Why are you even here?
Why are you
Because I
here?
invoked my First Amendment. That's the freedom of assembly. It's the freedom of our Constitution.
Richmonders decide about our statues. What? You have no say in this.
Born our country. The Constitution. Period. I'm sure you do. I've been told they wish Hitler would have killed me, but guess what? Hitler's dead. Move on.
So is Robert E. Lee.
Wow. I've heard it all. I've got thick skin. I'm called for unity, and unity is all American history. Now it's convenient.
Over here, baby.
Yeah, well, whatever. Sorry. 12,000 Jews died.
There's more cameras and all the kids out here. Thank you.
secession, which is better than war.
Rick Armstrong.
Nice language. You speak to your children that way? I do. World class.
American flag is all people! Asshole!
Go home.
Hey, we're not moving. Look how my body of your filthy. Look at the statues on it. Yeah. And let us march the way down. Yeah. No, that's sauce. That's sauce. Yeah, that's what's wrong with that.
The war started. After the war was over, he specifically said that he didn't want to be displayed in his uniform. He specifically said that he didn't want to wear the uniform. He specifically said
didn't want to be displayed either, but they are, and then they're gonna tear it down because it's part of it.
Lee, he reconciled the North and the South. And if you think, probably for the first time in history, after all that bloodshed and all that hatred, America came back together again. And North and South.
Do you remember Reconstruction? Did you learn about Reconstruction? Because that was a terrible time period.
I know.
Absolutely, that was not coming back.
In the South is what it was.
Exactly.
But so 30, 40, 50 years, the South was decimated. They had no money, no nothing. But when people started to die off and they had enough money to raise some capital to erect statues in memory of those who fought with honor, they did. And Northern soldiers would come down here and pay respect when these things were put up. And Southern soldiers would go up to the North and do the same thing. We came together. So now this leftist crowd of haters want to take it all down.
So I'm a descendant of Robert E. Lee. So I've researched a lot about Robert E. Lee. I've been researching Robert E. Lee since I was a child because I want to know about the man. And he said that he made a mistake. He agreed that, and he continued to try to defend the fact that he fought with his brothers, and that's what you did at the time, and I get the context and everything. But after the Civil War, he disagreed with his own self. He thought that he did the wrong thing. He said that he didn't want to be displayed. He didn't want the flag displayed. He didn't want to be memorialized in that uniform. And what we're doing is we're putting him up there.
Very man who wanted to reconcile the North and the South.
He didn't want to be displayed in the uniform, and look at him. He's right up there in a uniform.
Right, because at that time, everything
it doesn't matter.
Into perspective of time.
If you really want to respect the man and the statue of the man, put up a statue of him without the uniform. Without the uniform. Why has he got a statue? Is it really worth walking around and seeing him in a way that he didn't want to be seen?
Hundreds of thousands of people across the South raised the Capitol to erect the statue. My grandmother was 3 years old. Her mother put her hand on the cable. Everybody had lived through the war, lived through Reconstruction. They wanted to honor a virtuous man. Very few men in American history have the character of Robert E. Lee. These statues are up because of the character and the virtue of the man.
Yes. They chose Lee, but they put him in his Confederate uniform because he was a Confederate.
If you want to
that was for the Confederacy.
Jeff Davis now.
Oh, I 100%. Jefferson Davis and Murray needs to go down because they're not Virginians.
Murray was he was
not
from Lexington.
No, Stonewall Jackson and Robert E. Lee were born in the state of Virginia.
Murray's from Lexington, Virginia.
Right. He is.
The Maury River's named after it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of things about the state they're named after him. He was born. Okay.
Yeah, that's his whole deal. He didn't want to. He couldn't take up arms against his beloved Virginia.
No, that was Lee.
They've stated that in every.
Yeah, no, I know. Lee was born in Lexington.
Few people know.
No, Lee was born in Arlington.
Lee was born at Stratford Hall in Westmoreland County in 1807, the ancestral home of the Lee family.
Right.
Few people know that before the war, the South had 30% of the population, but they were paying 80% of the revenue to the federal government.
To support the North. Cotton was taxed, 60%?
Yep.
And the people that were paying those taxes also weren't paying the people that were doing the work for them.
Well, no, only 8%. Only 8% of the South even owned slaves.
Owned slaves.
And
but the majority of those that did own slaves owned a massive amount.
Right.
The majority of slave owners owned
George
more
Washington
than
was a massive
50.
slaveholder.
You're right.
So was Thomas Jefferson.
You're right.
But you're not going to take their statues down.
Do you see them in Confederate uniforms, though?
I see
At that
them in
time,
Confederate uniforms.
it wasn't a big deal. I mean, look at the Romans. They made slaves of everybody.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's part of history. You can move on, you learn from it.
But hold on, but we have books, we have museums, we have things to talk about this.
The United States. The United States, in the 5 or 6 years of America.
You're right. I've only read 45 books on Robert E.
I've
Lee.
read more than that.
In the history of mankind, say 5 to 6,000 years, the United States has been around for 233 years.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's a small
That is
blip.
that is 0.003 of human existence.
Right.
The United States devolved itself of slavery, gave people liberties that they had never dreamed of in their whole life. We are the richest nation in the world and the freest nation in the world.
And we waited until just about the rest of the world had before we did.
No, we didn't. Slavery and involuntary servitude.
England abolished slavery in the 1820s across their entire colony.
That's exactly.
France did it
built the
before.
World Cup Stadium with slave labor.
I agree.
You're making my point. 1820. I think the Brits abolished the slave trade in 1831. So you got 6,000 years, and the South was 20 or 30 years behind some of the northern, but behind Great Britain. Few people know that there were slaves in the North. Few people know that in 1860, blacks couldn't even live in free states. There were laws that wouldn't allow them to live there. They couldn't vote.
Right.
But it's capitalism and our American institutions that freed man and gave him dignity. And we got all these folks out here who don't understand anything. We live in a remarkable country. A country that 100 years ago, nobody would have dreamed we would have the wealth that we have today. And these people want to tear everything down.
You really think all these
everything.
people, all those soldiers died to protect slavery? You
Right,
really
and
think that?
we have a monument in Richmond to the Confederate soldiers that have died. I think that should stay up. We need to celebrate the people that fought and died, whatever side they were on. They went out to war for one reason or another. He led people who died.
Exactly.
He led.
Exactly, and they want to honor him. And their ancestors and
I think
their descendants want to honor him, and everybody else who fought wants to honor a great
thousands of people to their deaths for a rebellion that failed.
It wasn't a rebellion.
Was it not a rebellion?
Lincoln invaded the South, and he invaded the South. He invaded the South for money.
So when South Sudan tried to break off from Sudan, that was considered a rebellion until they won. When Ukraine tried to break away from the Russian Empire,
It's different
rebellion.
It's different.
Country,
It's
that's a
different.
different country. How can you compare that to that?
How is any rebellion?
There's nothing in the Constitution. If you look at the articles before the Constitution was written, if you look at the constitutional debates, everyone agreed at the time that if one of the states that joined the Union wanted to succeed, they could. So all these 13 states that succeeded, they felt they had the constitutional right. So they did.
Right.
But then Lincoln
It wasn't a
noticed all the
rebellion,
revenue
it was
being lost.
a succession.
Any secession is considered a rebellion when you're leaving the country that you're already in.
Well, hold on.
Not if you have a right to do it.
Well,
And whether or not constitutionally, reasonable people can disagree on that. I get that. But they were reasonable to think that. They took a position.
right now the United States of America is one country made up of 50 states.
Right.
At the time, there was no concept of one country. The United States was a group of individual nations, essentially. That's what the states were. So you're right, when the Confederacy...
And that's why they were referred to back then as in plural.
Yes.
When they referred to the United States.
Yes. But don't you think when the Confederacy, when they choose to disband, which, I mean, the political climate at the time, they were within their rights to do so, right? But don't you still think that is rebelling against the
Don't give them that right.
United, state, like the country that we are in now descends from the Union more than the Confederacy. Would you agree? We use their Constitution. We use.
Well, don't forget too, it's the Constitution that a number of southern states, especially Virginia, with George Mason and James Madison put together for the United States. I mean, I think it's interesting. The whole argument is interesting, and you think of Virginia formed the United States. 1 month before Virginia succeeded, the General Assembly voted 70-30 to stay in the Union. Virginia didn't want to leave the Union, but Abraham Lincoln called up troops, which meant that the local militias in Virginia would be federalized to fight against their own people. And Virginia, 1 week after that, flipped. And Virginia, don't forget, the people who fought at that time thought they were fighting against a rapacious invader. And so it happened. But the lesson of history is to learn from these things so it doesn't happen again. And rather than these simple, stupid platitudes and vulgar language like that, let's talk about it and learn about it. It's interesting. I happen to see their side because a lot of my people fought for the Confederacy. But I'm also rational enough to understand what happened in the North. I don't hate anybody because of it. It's history. I want to learn from it such that we don't make these mistakes again. I mean, this is just ridiculous. These statues, they never killed anybody.
Go home! You don't belong in Richmond! I'm an American. I belong anywhere I want to go in America. You don't belong in Richmond. You don't belong in Richmond. Go home!
Go home!
You say that first, though, you hate me for it.
Seek the dog. I love you. Go home!
I prayed for you all.
I don't need your prayers.
Of course you don't. Yeah, that's okay. United we stand, divided we fall.
I'd rather you be quiet. A girl just died. Go home. You don't belong here.
United we stand.
You don't belong
Ask
here.
the North Koreans about that.
You don't belong here.
Starting the Confederate States.
You don't belong here.
And you're not erecting the statue for yourself. People who love you are erecting statues in a different context.
Yeah, of course.
Capitalism and free markets allowed people who were laborers to have dignity, and for the first time in human history, you could pay people a free wage.
Revisionist
and it
history.
raised everybody up. Do you think mankind is so noble that they wanted to invade the South to free the slaves? No, mankind is not that good. Okay, so it's economics. If you look at all history, it's mostly economics. So if we understand economics,
it was economics that the South, their entire economic system was based on slavery, and they were going to fight to keep the mill to the last dying breath to keep it. I'm going to have to be a scholar. I know. And your degree is in what, by the way?
History.
American, from where?
American History. University of Virginia Tech.
Okay.
Pardon?
Okay.
Virginia Tech, American History right here.
Man.
You're a professor? No. Minor in political science.
But this is hate right here. We should learn from history. And history is fun. I say that capitalism is the greatest thing that ever happened to the world.
Capitalism is the worst thing.
But I don't think, let's discuss that then. Instead of saying F-U-C-K this and this and this, why don't you people act in a civil way and have a discussion?
Yeah.
Yes, you people out there who are protesting.
This is it, my friend.
Pardon?
When you start a rebellion, if you win it, you're a patriot. When you lose it, you're a traitor.
Well, that's because of who writes
But you can still be a massive slave owner and still be a patriot and a father of our country, right?
That was not his. The only historical contribution that Lee has significantly made to history, to American history, is him being the leader of the Southern.
He's so well respected by the Northern Fleet.
How about a man who could have been king? He could have been the general. He could have been the head of in your history Union Army, and when he declined that, He didn't have a job in Virginia. And a matter of fact, Joe Johnston was the head of the Confederate Army.
Right, and then
so he sacrificed
and then after
all
he
that
was wounded,
over what he saw as honor.
I know.
So
didn't the northern states have slaves also?
Maryland? No.
Maryland?
Oh my God.
Delaware?
Really?
Sold there
Really?
at a profit.
They
All northern states had slavery at one time.
actually,
Every one of them.
after the Plessy versus Ferguson decision, there was slavery was legal throughout the United States.
Plessy versus Ferguson is 1896. I'm a lawyer, by the way. You don't know what you're talking about.
Excuse me, that's not. I got the wrong one. Dred Scott. Thank you.
Dred Scott was 1856. Judge Taney ruled it, and he ruled that slaves were property chattel.
Legalized slavery in all the states.
Okay, if that's your position, that's 1856. Yes. It's 5 years before the war. So this country that's so noble had slaves up until that time? Come on. It's economics that drives history. People care about money. So human nature has a good side and a bad side. And we as people who understand history and love our country should understand that. And we should try to strive for the more noble side of history.
Then pick Mr. Lee up. Pick Mr. Lee up and move it out to one of the Confederate battlefields that surround this city.
Not a good reason to do that.
Because he has no historical context.
How can Robert E. Lee have no historical context?
Do you realize
he was erected in 1891?
Do you realize
hundreds of thousands
that
of people
military tactics that are used today are used because of him? What he did.
And that isn't to glorify
matters. Why?
It's not.
No. It's really not. Okay, so your stance.
Does the Roman Empire have any bust?
You should not
Julius
glorify
Caesar,
the Roman
probably
Empire.
the greatest general. Look at Napoleon, who was a
Once again,
tyrant.
another person
Look
you
at the
shouldn't
reign of terror in France. But there's statues to Napoleon
And I'd argue
everywhere.
there shouldn't be.
You know, because history moves on, and we acknowledge the good and bad about
Do
everybody.
you realize they still have a prison still up in Auschwitz? Are they going to take it down? No, because they're sitting there to remind you of what history was.
Yeah,
let's learn from it.
So it won't happen again. You're glorifying Lee. They're not glorifying the Holocaust.
We're not glorifying Lee. We're not glorifying Lee.
I'm glorifying Lee. Yes, I am. He was a man of great character, and we ought to glorify him. We ought to honor him. And if you don't agree, that's okay. You can erect a statue somewhere else. We can all get along. But this idea you have to tear down what somebody else has, that is the reign of terror in France where they cut people's heads off.
Make the guillotine red again.
Pardon? Pardon me?
Make the guillotine red again.
Make the who red?
Guillotine.
Oh.
Guillotine.
So that's your position? We should cut off everybody's head?
No, everybody in the world.
Of course not. That's simplistic.
That's a bad idea.
No! My God, no. That would be ridiculous.
Just ignore them.
Yeah.
The French Revolution, the Jacobins.
Right. Pardon?
You need to jail dissidents.
Jacobin, sorry. I didn't think I would get. I didn't.
Doesn't understand.
Is your position we need to jail people you disagree with? Then why did you say what you said? I mean, I'm just confused.
Bottom line, the reason these are here is to tell blacks where their place is, okay? It's not cool. So
I've lived here my whole life and I've never had a black
You haven't had a problem because you're white. I don't have a problem because I'm white either, right?
I don't know. Are you? I mean, I don't see skin color in everybody.
Oh my God! Oh, I'm invisible.
No, I mean, you want to make everything a racial example instead of a history example. Everything is about race, and you people use that as a tool for your leftist.
Oh my God, I love it.
You don't understand what he's saying by you people.
Oh, I think
No, the people that
people
are
right here. That's another tool you use. Ooh, we're offended by something he said. You know very well. I'm talking about the protesters and all these leftist groups that want to hate and tear things down.
Hey, stop making this about the election.
Yeah, because I know.
It has nothing to do.
Oh, I know. Yeah, because
It has nothing to do with the election. Because Trump is a very, very open-minded, multicultural.
his foreign policy.
It is. Dude, he's a very intelligent person too. I love what he's done for the black. I love what his dad has done for the black community in New York City. Oh man,
dialogue is very much important, and I have my position.